Hello students, in this video we will study lesson 5 which is negative exponents. Okay, so before we start this lesson, let's take a very important rule. If we have any number, let's say 5, and this number is to the exponent of to the power of 0, how much is this? Any number to the power of 0 will give us 1. The answer will always be 1. Let's take 10 to the power of 0 or a million to the power of 0. 10 to the power of 0 is equal to 1, and a million to the power of 0 is also equal to 1. What about variables? If we have x to the power of 0, that also will be equal to 1. If we have z to the power of 0, it will be also equal to 1. If we have an expression, let's say 3x plus 4y, and all this expression to the power of 0 will also be equal to 1. So anything to the power of 0 will give us 1. Okay, now negative exponents. What do we mean by negative exponents? How do we calculate them? To calculate negative exponents, let's have an example. Let's say that we have 7 to the power of negative 3. How can we calculate this? What do we mean by this negative exponents? Actually, it means that we have to reverse this number. Is this number in the numerator or in the denominator? Okay, in the first lesson we said that any number is written without the form of numerator and denominator is actually, and a number written alone is actually of a denominator of 1. So let's have an example. If we have another, okay, we will take another examples. So for now, this 7 here is in the numerator and its denominator is 1. What is the meaning of this negative power? It's actually, first, change the position of this 7 from the numerator to the denominator. So we will left with 1 over 7, and now to the power of how much? To the power of, just change the sign of the exponents. Not a negative 3 now, it is 3. So what do we mean by negative exponents? Actually, we mean that this number is equal to 1 over the same number with the positive exponent to the third power here. Okay, let's take another example. Let's take here 8 to the fourth power, to the negative fourth power, to the power of negative 4. What is the meaning of this? It means that we have 1 over 8 to the fourth. How did I know that? Because first of all, is this 8 in the numerator or in the denominator? It's actually in the numerator. So the denominator is how much? 1. Okay, the first step we should do is to change its place from the numerator to the denominator. After that, we change the sign of the exponents from negative to positive. As simple as it is. Let's take examples and see how the questions came. If we have the following question, let's take example from page 44. So page 44, example number 1, which is 6 to the power of negative 3. And the question is, write each expression using a positive exponents. Write using a positive exponents. Write using a positive exponents. So how can we write this 6 to the power of negative 3 into a positive 1? We have two steps. First of all, is this 6 in the numerator or in the denominator? It is obviously in the numerator. So the denominator is 1. So the first step to do is change its place from the numerator. If it is in the numerator, change it to the denominator, and if it was in the denominator, just bring it up to the numerator. So the first step, we write it in the denominator. So we write now nothing left in the numerator, so we write 1 over how much? 6. Now to the power of how much we change, then the second step is to change the power, change the sign of the power. So we have negative here, so we put positive 3. So 6 to the power of negative 3 is actually equal to 1 over 6 to the third. Let's take another example. From the same page, we have example 2. A to the power of negative 5. How can we write this into positive exponents? So the first step is to look at this A. Is it in the numerator or denominator? It is in the numerator. So what do? We change its place. That's the first step. And the second step is what? To change the sign of its exponent. So we will have nothing left in the numerator, so we write 1 over how much? A to the power of positive 5. We change the place of the number, and then we change the sign of the exponent. Okay, so now let's take examples on if we have numbers in the denominator. From the same page, we have example number 3, which is asking us to write in terms of a negative exponents this time. So this question is asking us to write these numbers in terms of negative exponents. We have 1 over 5 squared. How can we write this number in terms of a negative exponent? We can simply apply our rule. First of all, is this 5 in the numerator or in the denominator? It's in the denominator, so we move it, we change its place to the other side. If it's in the denominator like here, we change it and move it to the numerator. So this is the first step. And the second step, let's do the first step first. So we now have 5 in the numerator, and to the power of how much? The second step is to change the sign of the exponents. So it is positive here, so we change it to negative now. So the 1 over 5 squared is equal to 5 to the power of negative 2. Okay? That's simple. Example 4 from the same page, we have 1 over 36. And we are asked to write this number in terms of negative exponents. First of all, we do not have any exponents here, but we can represent this number in terms of exponents. We know that 6 times 6 is equal to 36. And from lesson 2, we can write these numbers, two repeated factors, we can write them in terms of exponents. So we can write 6 to the power of how many times this number has been repeated? 2 times 1, 2. So 6 to the power of 2 is equal to 36 actually. So we can represent 36 in terms of exponents by writing that is equal to 1 over 6 squared. Okay, and then here we have the exponents now. How can we write this exponents in terms of negative exponents? we apply our steps. The first step is to change its place from the denominator to the numerator. And the second step is to change the sign of the power. So we can write now 6 in the numerator and the power to the exponents to the power of how much? 2 positive. We write it to negative. So 1 over 36 is the same as writing 6 to the power of negative 2. Okay, now let's try h from got it from the same page, got it, page 44. We will solve part h, which is 1 over 27. How can we represent this number in terms of negative exponents? Well, we do not have exponents yet. We can rewrite this 27 in terms of exponents. How can we do that? We know that 3 times 3 gives you 9, and 9 times 3 gives you 27. So this is a repeated factor, and we can represent it by saying 3 to the power of how much repeated? 1, 2, 3. So 3 to the third gives us 27. So we can represent this number in terms of exponents as 1 over 3 to the third, which will be equal to... Okay, and how can we represent this number in terms of negative exponents? We can apply our rule, which is to change its place from the denominator to the numerator, and then change the sign of the exponents. So we can simply write it is equal to the 3 to the power of, this is a positive, so we change it to negative 3. So actually 1 over 27 is equal to 3 to the power of negative 3. Okay. If we looked at page 45, we have example number 6. Examples 6 and 7. Let's try to solve them. Example 6, asking us to calculate 5 to the third times 5 to the negative 5. Now pause the video and try to solve it by your own. Try to solve this example alone. Pause the video before you see the solution. Okay, so now let's solve it. From the previous lesson, from lesson 3 actually, we take the rules of multiplying and dividing monomials. And we have a multiplication here with the same factor here, 5 and 5, and the multiplication between them. So in this case, what do? We add the exponents. So we can simply write the same base and add the exponents. So we write 3 plus minus 5. And from the booklet, you remember how to calculate this? We have something weird, something not good between these two numbers. We have two signs, so we need to get rid of one of the signs. How can we do that? We look at this face here. Negative, negative, positive. We have a positive sign and a negative sign. So we hide them. Hide the negative with a positive. What should be the answer? It is negative. So positive with a negative gives us a negative. So we can rewrite this as 5 to the power of 3 minus 5. Okay, how much is the 3 minus 5? We can simply write 5 to the power. Who's bigger? Who's greater? 3 or 5? It's 5. So we first put the sign of the greater, which is negative, because negative 5 is the greater. So we put the sign of the greater. And now what do? Are these same signs or different signs? These are different signs. Positive for the 3 and negative for the 5. So different signs, then subtract. So we should subtract them. If we subtract them, 5 minus 3 gives us 2. So the answer will be 5 to the power of negative 2. Okay, how can we write this 5 to the negative 2 in terms of positive exponents? So we need to convert 5 to the negative 2 into a positive exponents. How can we do that? The same rule we have. Is this 5 in the numerator or in the denominator? It's in the numerator, so we change its place to the denominator, which is here is 1. And then this is the first step, and the second step is to change the sign of the exponents. So we write the following. Nothing left with the numerator, so we can write 1 over 5. So here we change the place of this 5, and then we change the sign of the exponents from negative 2 to positive 2. And we know that 5 squared is equal to 25, so we can rewrite the answer as 1 over 25. So all these answers are true. The multiplication of 5 to the third times 5 to the negative 5 gives you 5 to the negative 2, which is equal to 1 over 5 squared, which is equal to 1 over 25. Okay, let's try example 7 from the same page. Example number 7, which asks us to calculate w to the negative 1 divided on w to the negative 4. Lesson 3, how do we divide monomials? How do we divide exponents? We have the same base here, the same base, which is w and w, so we write the same base. And when dividing monomials, we subtract the second one from the first one, so we can write negative 1 minus 4. Pay attention to this one, guys. If you have a minus in the numerator and you need to calculate the division of two exponents, we write the first exponent, which is negative, subtract the second one from it. Even the second one was negative, we subtract it, substituting like this, negative, negative. Okay, and how can we calculate this? We can notice that we have two signs between the numbers, which is weird and not expected. So we back again to our face here and see what is the solution for these two signs. We have a negative and a negative sign, so we hide them. Negative sign with a negative sign. What should be the answer? It's positive. So the answer will be w to the power of negative 1 plus 4. And then how can we calculate this? We write w to the power negative plus 4. What is the sign of the greater? The greater is 4 and its sign is positive. So the answer will be positive. Are these same sign or different signs? They are different signs. So we simply subtract them. So 4 minus 1 gives you 3. W to the third power. The answer will be W to the power of positive 3.